I am. So maybe it's time to raise these inconsistencies, for only then can you discover who looks inward to transform the world, who flourishes, and who is swept away by the currents of conflict. Me, does this mean me, does this mean that we will continue talking about conflictive issues? I am. Is there a better month for it? We will not go to the battles because they do not correspond to us, but to the wounds, to the reactionary bosses. Conflicts are keys to evolution, but it is the decision of the consciousness of an individual to decide whether to use them to impose itself, from reaction or transform from action. Me, how do you know the difference? Me, how do you know the difference? Because many of us can think that transforming from action is fighting against someone or something. I am. Imposing from the reaction is when a being considers that his point of view is the only acceptable one and that therefore the other is wrong. And that therefore I am. Imposing from the reaction is when a being considers that his point of view is the only acceptable one and that therefore the other is wrong. He becomes polarized. Transform from action is when a being acts from the example and seeks third solutions to party conflicts. Organizing something new, original. It does not take a stand against anyone, but it does not take a stand against anyone, but it sets out to solve everyone's problems. But it sets out to solve everyone's problems. Me, difficult. I am, but possible. It's called evolution. Go inside. Discover your own conflicts, and you will know where you are reflected outside. Thus you will be free from the dual reaction. To act in harmony. Ooh, what's up, tribe? Thank you for being here, and welcome to my channel. Today's post is titled Conflict, and as it's a dialogue between Matias and his higher self, I'll be referring to Matias as me and his higher self as I am. Me. In bad weather, good face. Today that phrase came to mind, and I thought about it because of the post I made yesterday on social networks. These are the presidential elections in the United States, and in a certain way, they are elections that affect us all, not just Americans, since the United States itself is a country that intervenes in the decisions of all international organizations. My publication was in relation to the system they use in that country to hold elections, and several of the reactions of the people had nothing to do with what I had published. On the one hand, I realized what always happens: a great lack of reading comprehension. Most do not pay attention to the words and the syntax between them, and the reactions are directly proportional to what they see in the media. I am. Conflict. Me. Yes, conflict. Why do humans seek conflict before understanding what the other is exposing? I am. Because of the need to evolve. Yesterday we talked about suffering and the origin of this word. In order for a human to awaken the greatest capacity of his sensory potential in matter, he needs the pressure of the environment. It is like when a superhuman force arises in a mother or father when seeing their children in danger, because adrenaline is propelled to each muscle, giving it extraordinary power, in which the mind does not play a main role, but the other senses, which are, I think there's a typo here. It says which are, they become so acute. They become so acute that reactions are more intuitive than calculated. In short, the pressure, the suffering, brings all cells out of their comfort state. The biological body, like everything organic, seeks to save energy, and for this reason it tries to remain sedentary as long as possible, saving energy for really useful moments. Me. What is conflict? I am. It comes from the Latin con and fligere, which mean conjunction of blows. That is to say, squeeze, crush, oppress, conflict. Talks about the pressures exerted by the environment on an object or subject. This pressure generates a reaction, which can be harmonic if you are in consciousness, or chaotic if you live from unconsciousness. Me. How do you live the conflict from unconsciousness? I am. Unconsciousness is moving through currents, which can be physical or conceptual. A cold stream collapses down with a warm stream. This generates wind, and if the atmospheric pressure is very strong, the collision of the opposing currents tries to find harmony, looking for the way back to its place, generating spirals. Therefore, creating tornadoes, hurricanes. The same happens in the ocean with waterspouts. Everything that is in the middle will be dragged in these currents. Trees, houses, everything that has little grip on the ground will fly. On a social level, a person without his own foundations, without being in his center, without clear roots, will be dragged by the currents of external thought. You can call the cold current as blue color and the warm current as red color, just like a thermometer. By not having firm feet, any external wind will drag you along its currents, and when colliding with the opposite current, there will be so much pressure that it will generate force. Conflict. The blows will be mutual in an incessant fight. Me. And how do you stop that fight? I am. Is it a bad hurricane for nature? Me. Well, it hurts the environment, but I don't think it's bad for nature. I am. Why? Me. From what I know, they help regulate the planet's temperature. When the surface of the biosphere is overheated, it can be harmful to many species. Low pressure, lack of oxygenation, embolisms. So the planet has its own air conditioning system. Tornadoes, hurricanes, which bring cold air from the atmosphere to the surface of the planet, oxygenating the biosphere. The normal thing is that the hot air rises and the cold falls. So when hot air accumulates by atmospheric pressure, which would be as if the roof of the house were lowered a little, that heat remains close to the ground, and to remove it, you need a fan that shakes everything. I am. Then you will agree that what you see here as a conflict was actually a solution. Me. Sure, yes. Seen like this, the conflict has a purpose. I am. It has everything. The conflict is nothing more than the collision of two forces, one positive and the other negative. The conflict is nothing more than the collision of two forces, one positive and the other negative, that have been accumulating in one place, in a corner, and that it is time to remove them in order to generate something new. The conflict then awakens the potential of both parties, since in essence, outside of forms, positive and negative can only create by interacting. Thus, from unconsciousness, the creatures and entities of nature continue to manifest the impulse generated by the cosmos, a creative impulse, but at the same time chaotic. The pressure of the environment generates the awakening of internal capacities, and with it, evolution. Me. So the key to evolution is conflict, because only through it can we discover that it is necessary to solve a problem and transform ourselves to adapt and transcend it. I am. That is when the conflict has a purpose. Me. And when is the conflict conscious and harmonious? I am. The tree spreads firm roots, settles down, knows where it belongs, that it does not follow any current, but it also knows that it cannot expand its essence while being fixed, so it evolves to benefit from conflict. Design flowers which will contain pollen, design fruits that will contain seeds, and develop their flowers and seeds in a flexible and aeronautical way for the wind to carry them. Maple, for example, designed a system of seeds that appear to have wings, like a dragonfly. Thus, the wind rips them from the tree, and they begin to fly like a helicopter, moving away, finding new land to take root. The dandelion has designed its planting system thanks to the wind. In the ovary or receptacle of the seeds are the achenes, from which the hairs of the villano arise, elongated white formations that look like the skeleton of an overturned umbrella. The wind detaches the achenes from the flower receptacle, and they fly with the currents to spread their seeds over land that could not otherwise be reached. Me. So it was adapted to use the wind at its mercy for its own benefit, without being affected by the wind and its currents, make a profit out of conflict, evolution, and expansion. I am. But both systems inevitably use conflict, for they are all expressions of biology. Me. So what would it be like not to enter the conflict? I am. Get out of biology and find the essence. There, from infinite contemplation, all forces are equal to zero. All perceptions are part of the synapse that breeds the great cosmic mind. There, the energy is neither positive nor negative. It simply is. It coexists in neutrality, and there is no pulse or impulse. There is no action or reaction, and therefore the energy that you previously pressed and pushed you will call love, and the force that pressed intentionally its condition. It becomes unconditional. Me, but it's almost impossible. I am, sure. Me, so I don't understand. Why seek that unconditional love if it's impossible to live from absolute neutrality on earth? I am. Where do you do things from? Me. You mean, what is the initial intention? I am, sure. Do you do things based on what you see outside or based on what you have inside? Me, well, I guess I should do it from what I carry inside of me. So I take action instead of reacting. I am. And how do you know what you have inside? Me, I must go within. I know myself. I know all my internal conflicts. Understand myself, heal, find harmony, and from there act. I am. In other words, in order to transform the external world and its conflicts, you must first know if you do it from the chaotic reaction of the reflections of the external world, or from the harmonious understanding of your internal world. This is how meditation and philosophy are the basis for politics and civilization. The philosophical is the basis of the pragmatic. Me. That's what I wanted to ask you, because many times I feel that when we begin to philosophize, that's what I wanted to ask you, because many times I feel that when we begin to philosophize about the universe and how to understand metaphysical concepts, everything remains in a dream, but it is not practical. I have heard people say to me, someday you will have to take sides and talk about politics, be practical, etc. Something that I often feel, but at the same time, I feel that this is not how it should be. I am. The mistake is to believe that speaking is taking sides. That is the match. Splitting, dividing, splitting the path between origin and destination. Humans believe that to act, it is necessary to position oneself on one side or the other. This makes you live the conflicts polarized, looking for enemies in every corner, in every stream. If you react to the world, you will only become a reaction of the world. If you act in the world, you will transform it. And to act, you must go deeper, not to people, not to individuals, not to ideologies, or what you think of one or the other, but to real conflicts. In order to act from the essence, you must go to the essence. You must understand how things work. You cannot solve the fight of enemies if you do not understand duality. You cannot fight against lies if you do not understand the law of vibration. You cannot ask for justice if you do not live in balance. You cannot project a better world if you do not understand that you are the world. To act wisely, you must convert knowledge into love. That is, in Greek they say philos and sophe, love of wisdom, philosophy. Me, if I don't find philosophy in meditation and abstractism, I will continue to be the reaction of the world around me, polarizing myself in the parties. I am. When the tree and the flower discover their essence, they wake up using the world from harmony, sowing seeds without taking sides. Being in himself, his essence, creates seeds that will germinate throughout the world. Me, sowing a new humanity, is the slogan for the Arsayan Foundation. Today, I understand it more clearly. I am. That is why your teachers and guides have always told you, from ideology to biology, because the idea lies in the philosophy that must be applied in the physical world according to the laws of the physical and biological world, which is the spirit design. This is why they have always told you that you must first nurture the abstractism of the spirit in order to carve out the terrain of the concrete. Well, the world of forms is born from the world of ideas. The external is born from the internal. And if you don't face the internal world, you will never be able to transform the outside. So ask yourself, what are your conflicts? Me, what I see is that when we speak of philosophy, everyone feels happy. But when we begin to speak about the concrete, about our social and political reality, etc., the battles begin to jump, the conflicts. I am. So maybe it's time to raise these inconsistencies, for only then can you discover who looks inward to transform the world, who flourishes, and who is swept away by the currents of conflict. Me. Does this mean that we will continue talking about conflictive issues? I am. Is there a better month for it? We will not go to the battles because they do not correspond to us, but to the wounds, to the reactionary bosses. Conflicts are keys to evolution, but it is the decision of the consciousness of an individual to decide whether to use them to impose itself from reaction or transform from action. Me, how do you know the difference? Because many of us can think that transforming from action is fighting against someone or something. I am. Imposing from the reaction is when a being considers that his point of view is the only acceptable one and that therefore the other is wrong. He becomes polarized. Transform from action is when a being acts from the example and seeks third solutions to party conflicts, organizing something new, original. It does not take a stand against anyone, but it sets out to solve everyone's problems. Me, difficult. I am, but possible. It's called evolution. Go inside, discover your own conflicts, and you will know where you are reflected outside. Thus, you'll be free from the dual reaction to act in harmony.